So I'm going to go over the 3 branches of government, obviously, since you guys just watched that rap video. Did you guys like the video?
It reminded me of the 90s.
Okay, when you guys took the test from them, when they did the how does corporation work and stocks, did you guys think about what they were saying?
Mm-hmm. With the stock market one?
The stock market one?
Yeah.
When they're,
Stocks are a part of the business.
Yeah. Okay. So
Still stuck in my head.
anything that I add a little something extra to, it's basically to kind of reiterate what I'm going through in lecture. So make sure that you pay attention and reference that. So we're going to go over the 3 branches of government. And basically, the U.S. Constitution divides power among the 3 branches, right? So it's the whole idea behind that is that there is separation of power. Why do you think that this was done? Why would you separate power? Why wouldn't you just have one king or queen?
So someone didn't get more
3
power
different
than the other
viewpoints.
ones?
Okay, different viewpoints. Go ahead, Tiffany.
To avoid monarchy.
To avoid having one person in power, right? Maybe that wasn't the goal. Good. So if we're looking at the separation of powers, okay, this is going to put limits on the government. Okay, so it's going to limit them. It's also going to prevent from, since we have 3 branches, one single branch having too much power, right? So you kind of saw in the video where they were talking about, oh no, it's me, I have the most power, oh no, it's me, right? And you can kind of see that they all equally had power in some way, shape, or form. So the 3 branches of government are going to be the legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch. How many of you guys remember this from U.S. history? Okay, good. So who is in the legislative branch?
The Congress?
Good. Congress.
And then it goes the president?
Executive is the president. Good. And
Supreme Court.
Supreme Court Judicial. Perfect. So on it. Okay, so just like you guys said, the legislative branch is going to make the nation's laws. The executive branch is going to carry out the laws. And then don't forget about that judicial, okay, branch, which is going to interpret laws, right? So if maybe the president passes a bill that is unconstitutional, who can override that? It's unconstitutional. The Supreme Court can rule this is unconstitutional. This isn't going to happen. Okay? We're ruling that. So you can see that balance. Can anyone think of anything that is a hot topic within today society? Marijuana? Okay, that's a good one. What about, have you guys heard about the healthcare bill? Mm-hmm. And it went up in front of the Supreme Court, right? That it's mandating that everyone have health care. And the Supreme Court did not rule that unconstitutional. So it's also referred to as Obamacare. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you have your 3 branches of government, okay? And then you have, right here you have your executive branch, right? That's the president, vice president, anyone that he appoints. Okay, you have your legislative branch, which is going to be Congress. Congress is going to be made out of the Senate and the House, okay, of Representatives. Then you have the judicial branch, which is going to be the Supreme Court, just like Sierra said. And they're going to have a connection to the House of Representatives and the federal court system, okay? Here's another way of looking at it, okay? Okay, so the legislative branch is basically the lawmaking branch. So that's where you see Congress. Okay, there's going to be 2 houses. You're going to have the Senate and the House of Representatives. How many senators are there in each state? Good, Caitlin, 2. Okay. There are 2 senators per each state, and it's just universally, that's how it is representative, okay? So everyone is the same. With regards to the House of Representatives, it goes by population. So they're looking at, like, for example, what is a more populated state in the United States? New York, perfect. What else?
California.
California, absolutely. What is a maybe less state that has a lower population?
Oklahoma.
Alaska, absolutely. Alaska may be huge, but not a lot of people want to live in Alaska, right? Oklahoma is a perfect one. North Dakota, great. Okay, so the House of Representatives works where higher populated states have more representatihes and lower popular states do not. So there's a little bit of a balance of powers you see within that as well, okay? And then we also have the executive branch, okay? This is Article 2 of the Constitution. It's going to basically carry out the nation's laws, okay? This is the president, vice president, okay? And their advisors. So you have creating laws, carrying out laws, and remember, the president can veto if Congress comes up with a law and they say, hey, we'd like to pass this law. The president can veto that law. But Congress can also override the president's veto. Does anyone know how that happens?
So they put it to vote?
They do put it to vote. Carol, awesome. So it's 2/3 vote. So that if 2/3 of Congress feel that they should override the veto, then they can. Absolutely. That was good. Good job. So then we have the judicial branch, which is Article 3 of the Constitution. And this is where they're going to interpret laws, okay? So punish lawbreakers, right? Determines if laws are unconstitutional. That's the biggest thing. So if something is unconstitutional, then they can rule it unconstitutional and get rid of that law. Now, what is the biggest court in the nation? What's it called?
It's the Supreme Court.
Right.
Yes, sir.
The Supreme Court. Now remember that, so right, we have a court, right, on Main Street. Anyone seen that? Courthouse, right?
Yeah.
So we have our own court. Our court is, kind of a state court. It's a lower level court. If you kind of look at that, there's kind of different tiers of the court system. Now, with the Supreme Court, I refer to the Supreme Court as like the big daddy of like all courts. So that is, you know what I mean? If you work your way up, that something is, an issue that is so big, it's going to make it to the Supreme Court. That is really, a federal court, big court versus small courts like we have in Placerville. Okay. Now, the checks and balances, this goes back to our rap video that we were watching. Each branch has its own powers, but no one branch is too powerful, right? We've established that. And so this is really how the Constitution is breaking up powers. And I have a better one right here. Each branch has to check or limit the powers of the other two branches. So you can see Congress has the power to make laws, but the president can veto them, right? We just talked about that. And the president can check the power of Congress, right? So Congress is making sure that when laws are passed, that Congress is doing a good job. However, it can also go the other way. So Congress can override or pass with, like what Carol said, the 2-majority vote in both houses, okay? So the House of Representatives and the Senate. So if they have 2/3 majority rule, they can check, right, the president to make sure that that there is no bias there. The Supreme Court, okay, can check the powers of Congress and the president by determining if the law is unconstitutional. If the law is unconstitutional, then there goes the Supreme Court can rule and override the president and Congress. Make sense? Mm-hmm. Yes, so we have a nice little balance. And here's a nice graphic organizer that you guys can look at. So it's kind of looking at, would be like a great fill in the blank question for like an assessment, right? Wink, wink, hint, hint. So where the president is assigning power, okay, where the president is getting checked, okay, both from the legislative, Congress, judicial court, Supreme Court. Any questions on checks? No? Okay, so what are the 3 branches of government? Someone tell me.
Legislative.
Legislative. Judicial.
Executive.
Executive, perfect. What is the primary responsibility of the judicial branch?
To see if it's like unconstitutional.
Okay, so to
forget
check
what
the
it's
laws, make sure that they're constitutional. What about executive?
Mixed.
Carry out the laws.
Yeah,
Carry out the laws, right? What can the executive check?
The power.
The power of who?
Congress.
Congress. Good. So, and what am I doing? Judicial, executive, legislative.
Makes the laws.
Makes the laws. Perfect. How does the U.S. Constitution provide for separation of powers? There's 3 words I'm looking for.
That's in the question. Never mind. Checks and balances.
Yeah,
I knew
checks
it.
and balances. There you go. You guys are right there. And how do checks and balances work? Just give me one example that we went over.
What they cover everything. Like each of them cover each other.
They all cover each other. So one example would be the president can
Veto.
veto.
laws.
Perfect. So an example would be an actual, like the president can veto. Okay, any questions on this?
Nope.
No. Okay, you also have reading on, part 2 is going to go over how a bill becomes a law. So there's kind of 2 halves to this unit. So the first one will be 3 branches of government, checks and balances. The second half is going to be how a bill becomes a law. And due to popular request from Sierra, I put the video up here how a bill becomes a law from Schoolhouse Rock. So
Oh my God, my first grade.
so make sure that you check that out.
Because it's funny.
It's awesome. Any questions? No?